Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. So this week's Torah portion is the portion of Noach, where we read all about the flood. And it's interesting because the first time we hear the name Hamas in the Torah is in this week's Torah portion, when the Torah speaks about the robbing, the terrorizing that the people did in the time of the flood to deserve the flood. The Torah calls them Kimal Haaretz Hamas. The world was full of Hamas. First time we hear about Hamas is in this week's Torah portion. And it's interesting because this week's portion is Noach. We read about the flood. It happens to be raining outside all day. But in the portion we read about the flood and what happened after the flood, after God saves Noah's generation. What happens afterwards? Noach and his family, God makes a promise to Noach that he puts a rainbow in the sky and promises that he will never destroy the world again. But what caused God to make that promise? So we know that when Noach came out of the ark and he realized that God had saved him, the first thing he did was he thanked God. He built an altar and he brought from all the animals in the teva a sacrifice to God to give him gratitude. And when God smelled the reach nichoach, the delicious aroma, God promised to never, ever destroy the world again. And the same is true in a certain sense with us. On October 7th, we had our own flood from Hamas. In fact, they called it the Al-Aqsa flood. And over the last 2 years, it was a horrendous time for the Jewish people. But yet, when the hostages came back 2 years afterwards, Noach was in the ark only for 1 year. This is 2 years afterwards. Israel, according to many analysts, is in a more secure position than it ever was since its inception, since its founding as a state. Because we fought 7 wars against enemies that were surrounding us and ready to kill us. And we won. And now the question is, how are we going to respond? How are we going to give gratitude to God for the miracle that the 20 hostages came home? And we keep on getting the bodies back to bury in dignity those who didn't come home alive. How do we respond? You know, one of the most moving things was to see the way the hostages reacted to their captivity. And that many of them went in being secular and not connected to their Judaism. But yet, during their captivity, they became more connected than they were ever. Eitan Horn says that he never in his life fasted on Yom Kippur. Never. A Jew, an Israeli, never fasted. But the first time he ever fasted on Yom Kippur was during captivity. Think about it. He barely had any food to begin with. But yet he decided during captivity to fast and to begin fasting on Yom Kippur. We see this by all the hostages. We saw pictures of many of the hostages coming, and the first thing they do is they wrap tefillin and they connect to their Judaism. It's unbelievable. Now it's our turn to show the gratitude to Almighty that we should make sure that we never have such a situation again. I heard this amazing story about this teacher in Israel who turned his class, who came back after Sukkot, and he said, I want you all to tell me something special about your Sukkot. And one kid says that the most special thing was when my mother came, Shmini Atzeret, the beginning of the holiday, to the home, to the table, she never looked so beautiful. She looked so beautiful. And that was my favorite thing in the holiday. And the teacher couldn't understand what he was saying. He says, what do you mean? And he says, well, when October 7th happened, my mother promised that she will never wear jewelry till all the hostages came home. And she took all of her jewelry off. And Shmini Atzeret was the first time that she put all her jewelry on. She came dressed so beautifully to the table to celebrate the release of the hostages. Let us strengthen ourselves. Let us give gratitude to Hashem, that Hashem should smell the aroma of our commitment, of our Torah, of our mitzvot, of our love to Him, and therefore make sure that we never have a challenge like this again. God bless you and have